Hello.
Excellent. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Um, so yeah, I'm Robin. I'm the kind of founder of the festival, and I've got
Yeah.
Filmotomy, which is the other site, which is my baby. And I've had that for like nearly 12 years. But the festival's 11 years old now. I mean,
Wow.
it's
It's
crazy. But
really young.
yeah, so yeah, thank you for submitting your film and everything else. Um, I've seen the film, obviously. Someone else was going to do the interview, I think, with you, but they're not available. But I said I could do it because I've seen all the films. Um, and I watched yours again. I really like it. Um, and I sound surprised, but you know what? When you see student films, you don't expect that with budget and people who are in college and go back to film school in the 40s and they make these films and you're like, well, you know, when you're young or whatever and you go to college or uni, you're not expected to make masterpieces. But this was like, I'm gonna ask you about student life, I think, first. I mean,
Mhm.
this is a university project, I believe.
My third year final project.
I mean, it's really impressive for many reasons, which I'll come to, a lot of technical aspects. What was the like thesis, or what was the criteria? Were you given something to say, right, you're gonna make a film with these
Mm.
factors, and where did it go from there?
So, in our second year, we're told that for our third year film, we're going to be going up from 5 to 10 minutes to a 15-minute film, and that we
Yeah.
should start getting our ideas together. In terms of our thesis, I guess, we're told just to make anything, but we have to pick a genre and that it can't be longer than 15 minutes. Other than that, the university gives you complete freedom. So there's no limitations. You get your budget yourself. Everything has to be self-funded with yourself and your team. And other than that, just make sure it's under 15 minutes. And once you have your genre and what you want the audience to get from it, now it's up to you to hit that criteria and they measure it from the criteria you set.
Yeah. And directing, was that always your like first choice? Is that where you were going? Because you've got Tegan who wrote the script, you've got producer. Is that how it works? You've got these different collaborators, and then you pick your team.
So once they tell you in second year because they want to give you enough time to source your
Hmm.
own crew. So from second year, I decided I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted it to be the high road. It wasn't named yet because Tegan had named it, but I knew I wanted it to be about a mother and daughter relationship, and I knew I wanted to direct it. So I just started messaging some friends of friends within the university who were also on my course saying, if you haven't signed on to anything for third year yet, I'd love you to be this, this, this.
Ah, I
And
see.
I was only able to get 3 people. So then they do a massive, they call it like meet and greet, where you meet
Hmm.
other students within your year and you tell them about your film and you kind of pitch to your fellow classmates. And
Ah,
that's where
right,
I was
okay.
able to get everyone else.
What are your first
So
impressions of that script then? Because obviously everyone has experience with family and toxic trauma, everything. But we've all been there to some extent. What
yeah.
what when you read the script, did you think, oh, here we go, this is what I want to do? Or what was your first impressions?
So we decided to do the script, obviously from nothing. Tegan interviewed me 3 times because it is about my personal story. So
Yeah.
she interviewed me 3 times, and then I didn't want any other input after the interviews because she's the writer and I didn't want it to be too personal to me.
That's
So
it.
she
Yeah.
took from the interviews and made her own fabricated story. I kind of said, I want there to be a sibling. I want the mother and daughter not to get along and then take from my experience I've told you. And it took her, she started in August and she finished in October. So
Oh wow.
about 3 months. And I was, every time I'd get a draft, I was like, oh my gosh, but she's insane. She like really took my little bit of information and made it blossom into what the high road was. And then she came up with the name in our first interview as well. She was like, I feel like Lonnie is just always taking the high road and not being with her daughter. And I was like, that is
Yeah.
the name right
That
there.
is.
That's it. So yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I
I'm
love that.
I'm really
Yeah.
happy with it.
There's some real key lines in that script as well. I know you wrote in your bio about you don't feel there's enough of this type of story in short films. I mean, I don't. You could have meant
Mhm.
anything by that. You could have meant that. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it, but this is not. this is not wrapped up in a bow. This is not a happy ending. This is not like you're gonna you want to you maybe are gonna want to go and cuddle your mother after it, but not for the reasons you think. And I really
Mhm.
like that. There's some really good lines of dialogue in it as well. So, did that come from you as well, or was that just Tegan with your notions and your answers, and then she went and wrote the dialogue, and you were like, "Oh yeah, excellent."
Mhm. So she's just really good with the way she interviews. She's asking, what would conversations be like with your mother? She's
Yeah,
not really asking, what was it like in the house? It's all about conversation. She was like, how would you two talk? And then the little information I'd give her and her own experience with kind of narcissistic people, she would just blend it all together. And
mm,
sometimes it was too much because I did want Lonnie to not seem too much like a villain, but more in a sense that she was giving the wrong tools to be a mother. And
yeah,
that's why she is a bad mother. Not that she is a bad person. It's just not everyone is meant to be a mother and have motherhood. Sometimes it's just put on you. So sometimes I'd have to reel it back. Sometimes it was just, most of the time it was spot on. Most of the time it was spot on. But yeah, she's just an
yeah.
incredible writer.
Yeah, I think that what I took from the characters is I think the daughter seems very troubled. There's a scene where she's shaking and she's obviously got some anxieties and things going on, and the mother's very fiery. But there is a obviously I'm
Hmm.
not going to give it away, but the ending she sort of becomes more remorseful. So I didn't feel like she was a villain. I felt like there was two sides to every coin, I suppose. But yeah, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
The casting then, I mean, because obviously how, as a director, I'm going to ask you how, as a director rather than casting, that energy that those two had, because they seemed like mother and daughter to me. That seemed like I've been in that argument before. How did you create that energy between those two people as a director? Was
Mm.
that a challenge for you?
It it was a challenge to find my Lonnie.
Mm,
And oh, so the two actors, Bex and Maria, they're just absolutely fantastic.
yeah.
But finding Maria was very easy. Immediately I was like, okay, there she is. She's the
Mhm.
perfect character. But Lonnie having to match Maria's energy, it was such a push and pull. But once we found them both
Yeah.
on set, I speak to my actors as if they are their characters. There's no
Okay.
really, yeah, there's never kind of a break when I'm talking to them as Bex or as Maria. We're always in character unless we need to step out and have a second away from our character.
All
And
right. Okay.
also taking everyone out the room. No one's in there except the DOP and I for most of the time because I want them to feel that this space and this bubble really is being created. It's kind of like how if you're in like a superhero film, putting on the costume, like it just
Yeah.
helps you get into character. I think when there were 17 crew members, so I think the more crew, the more you realize this is make believe. So once you step out of that and it's just us and we lower the energy and we keep them kind of separate from the crew, I think that's what helped them the most. And then asking them what helps them get into character. That was really good as well. Just what helps you get into character, what brings it forward the most, and just having long conversations before every scene, talking it
Mm.
out, what we're going to be doing, any questions, anything you want to stop on, and letting them give me the characters I need because at the end of the day, I'm not doing it. They're the ones bringing these characters forward, so I relied on them as much as they relied on me. But yeah, Dia and Lonnie did an amazing job. Bex and Maria, they really brought it to me.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that like you hear actors talk about I stayed in character. So you hear actors talk about method acting or whatever you want to call it, but you almost like you don't hear directors like yourself say that often that you also went into that bubble in that space and said, "Well, I'm gonna treat them as the characters," which makes sense, doesn't it? But you don't hear people say
Mm,
that. Like you hear actors talk about, it, but for a filmmaker to say, "Let's," yeah, I think that's really excellent actually. Um, Technically, a lot of things I noticed, like you open with footsteps. There's a lot of use of
mm,
sound. There's a scene where you abruptly edit, which I think is deliberate, when she's shouting at her and the daughter's just like tuning out. She can't
mhm.
take anymore. Like, so tell me about that use of sound and the choice of music as well. Right from the
Mhm.
first, the first thing you hear is that music. So tell me about the sound of the
Yes.
music.
So obviously it's students. So we had two sound recordists on set and one
Mm,
sound mixer. I worked so closely with them, but honestly, they were amazing. They did their job really succinctly. We also brought in some second years to shadow them because I always think it's good. And that second year brought in his own little stuff of, oh, I feel like Lonnie is feeling this energy of like buzzing. And I was like, wow, like I love that
Yeah.
you've been brought into the space and you can tell me something. Collaboration was amazing here. I can only do so much, so I relied on my team a lot. Arthur Whelan was the person who did all of our scoring, just a student. And I just worked with him on what anxiety would sound like. The music is always from Dia's point of view. When we hear music or a riser, it's because Dia is feeling that way.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're telling her story. So, what does anxiety feel like? What does pent up anger against your mother feel like? What does a glass shattering in your heart sound like? And all of this would just be incorporated through the film. We cut on sound, like editing was just as important as the sound. They go hand in hand. But that was because of my lecturers telling me that as well, that if the
Yeah.
sound isn't there, I can't feel your film. And we really took that. I thought sound was really important. I from the get-go was like, who is the best sound mixers in our university? And I do think I landed on some pretty good ones.
I think you did. You must have watched that for the first time because when you make a film, like I've written scripts before, by the time you get to filming it, you're kind of sick of your own writing. You're sick of it all. Like when I'm editing videos, I'm sick of looking at these clips. I don't watch these
Yeah,
films. So you must get, but when you get the finished product, that feeling that all your collaborations have come together, what was that like? I mean, that must have been amazing.
it was amazing, but it was also just as much as tiring. At that point, we had all been working on it for 1 year. Yeah,
Yeah,
at that point, it had been an entire year of pre-production, production, and post. I think we were all tired, because sadly, along with the film, it does come with written work that needs to be with it. So
right.
you're so in your production, you're so in it, and then you're like, oh, and I still have to write about my film, which just feels so counterintuitive of all the amazing work we've done.
Mm.
But nonetheless, we were all really happy. We're happy with how many festivals we've gotten into. We're just grateful that the uni gives us such good equipment and resources to do something like this. Because now that I've graduated, those resources are really slim. So I'm grateful
Yeah.
for that opportunity.
Well, congratulations on the graduation. Because I do always ask students, did you pass? Did this film get you over the
Yes.
line, so to speak? So it's always nice when you're still moving on. Just a couple of technical questions, and I'll ask you quickly about where you plan to go from here, I suppose. The locations are interesting because you've got not just the locations, I mean, probably came from the script and Tegan, but outdoors, indoors, some very dark settings. You've created your own challenges there, like you were lighting and everything else. I mean, you could just set it outside with a natural light and you sorted, but you didn't do that. Tell me about that
Mhm.
sort of dilemma.
So I know that lighting is extremely important, but I also knew that when I graduate, I don't have apertures, I don't have velvet panels. So I was just thinking with my crew, how can we make a film that uses minimal lighting and uses what we already have? Because
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it was a kind of an independent and personal film, and I didn't see how something so grand would help the film. I felt it would hurt it. So I went about lighting. Let's use as much daylight or nighttime as possible, and then let's fill it if needed. So, for instance, that big hotel scene on the outside, we just
yeah,
had one light and just someone just kind of moving it whenever someone needed a bit more fill.
yeah,
Just and that light was acting as a street lamp. Anything just making it seem already within the realm of the world, nothing too crazy, which does mean we have scenes like when they're in the bed in the hotel room, it's quite dark, but it
yeah.
would be dark. It wouldn't be perfectly lit because it's just moonlight that's coming through. So why make it so fabulous and amazing lighting when it's just a dark scene? Maybe it's a time for the audience just to listen to what's happening.
I love that idea, yeah. Because we do lay in our bed and unless they're reading and you're thinking, I can't see the words or yeah, I like that. That you just sit with the characters for a bit. You don't. They're just laying down. Yeah, I think that's. I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Great
think it
achievement.
helps.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it helps students who are about to do their final project to realize, well, the high roads lighting wasn't that crazy, but I still maybe liked the film and I thought it still gave the good message across. Sometimes it's what do you have to say, not what can you show off. And I
Mm.
really wanted to put that forward.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you see films don't you, where they're overlit in a bedroom scene. You sort of go, hang on a minute. When I'm in bed at night, it's not like this.
It's really not, no.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that notion that you've said that because again, you don't hear filmmakers say that just it is dark in this location. Why does a film have to shine light on every single thing? Um,
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about the ending because it might. It's not really a spoiler, but it could have gone a different way. You could have changed. I mentioned the wrapping it up in a bow. Did you and Tegan have
Mm.
conversations or anybody else about should we do this? And did you wrestle with the melancholy of it?
hmm So I actually wanted the ending to be experimental, and it was
Mm,
going to end in a movement sequence with Dia. But on our fourth day of shooting, when I was about to start choreographing that with Dia, um, I just had this realization that our film was too, so it wasn't surreal enough to put something experimental like a movement scene in at the end. So in the
okay.
middle of production, that was cancelled. We're no longer doing a movement scene, which meant the score had to be changed because that was to the choreography.
Yeah.
Instead, she will just walk away. And why is because it could have ended lovely, like you said, but I think it did still because Dia chose herself when her whole life she just wanted her mum's comfort, bit of a spoiler, and everything to be quote unquote normal between her and her mum. She decided that this relationship is only causing me pain and it's time to walk away. She chose herself in that moment by letting go. And that was so big for me and Tegan. She'd sometimes say, but I just feel like she just needs a hug. She just
Yeah.
needs to run into her mum's arms. Like it's so depressing. And I was like, it is. But we've seen films where they run into each other's arms and they have that moment. Let's show what happens when that person can't be changed until they choose to. And Lonnie is stuck in her ways. She doesn't want to change and she won't. So
Yeah.
let Dia go. Let her then live her life and do what she wants to do and have the freedom of not having to have a narcissistic mother. And when we figured out that that was Dia's path, it was just smooth sailing from there. If anything, it just got us excited because we also shot as chronologically as we could.
Yeah.
So we knew the final day on the final shoot on the final day would be her letting go of a week's worth of shooting. And I think she was able to literally let go because she knew after this, I've wrapped and I can feel those emotions fully.
Yeah, I'll tell you what else I liked about the ending. I'm kind of forgetting about spoiler free. I'm not. It's not really a spoiler, not a massive twist, but I like that as well. You gave the daughter that pedestal as well to say, well, no, I'm walking away. And it was on her terms. It wasn't a back and forth.
Mm,
It was that she decided that no, no, this is how it's going to be. Maybe the next day they'll have a cuddle. I don't know, but at that moment,
mm.
she's like, no, I'm walking away. And what else I liked as well, I don't know if you've seen Michael Clayton, which is a George Clooney film from about 20 years ago, and he's at the end, he's kind of fed up, and you just sit and watch him in a car, and the
Hmm.
credits start rolling while he's still with him. And I love that about your film that you let that moment linger. You watch her walk away while the credits
Yeah,
start, so you almost like you're out the film. You're in the. I love that as well. So that
yeah.
bravo on that. On that.
Suspends the disbelief. You're still there for a second with her.
Yeah, it's almost like you're walking into the film at the end. I suppose a couple of quick questions then is where do you go next from here? What's your ambition? Do you want to direct? Are you still in touch with your college friends, your uni friends?
Mhm.
What's next for you then?
So I'm still in touch with the writer Tegan, of course, the DOP Tom Kelly, the producer India, and I would say that core three, they just really went beyond and above for the film. So we
Yeah,
keep in close contact. The producer and I are now making our second short film with a different writer. And then in the meantime, I have been still collating my own little pieces of shorts, but now they're condensed even smaller. So it's almost like a phrase of what the high road could be, the opening scene, or just a conversation. I'm keeping all my ideas short because obviously we don't have all this funding and all this equipment that the university provided us with. But I still
Yeah.
want to show that filmmaking doesn't need all that. Like even this morning, we did a really small shot of just a girl riding down the street on her bike.
Hmm.
What is she thinking there? What music is she listening to? You can still create what you would like to on a smaller budget, that or maybe no budget at all. And that's what I'm doing right now. But yeah, my biggest thing I want to like keep doing is personal and independent filmmaking. Everyone has a story, like you said at the start of this interview. Everyone has their own traumas. Everyone's got something that I'm sure they'd love to say. And how can I get a platform big enough that I can start directing these little shorts and hopefully one day a feature for people
Hmm.
who want their stories heard, especially underrepresented stories.
Yeah, I've loved hearing you speak. You've said two or three things that I just think this person's got a really good film brain. You know, it's not all about creativity sometimes. It is about, like the girl riding on the bike, it is about, well, what does that mean? You see things like this in film all the time. What's she thinking? So you've obviously got a really good film brain, and I wish you all luck going forward.
Oh,
Um,
thank you so
yeah,
much.